Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
It's great to be back.
Today we're going to be talking about something that is really fascinating to me, and I think it's going to be to you too.
Oh, yeah.
This is a deep dive into the Roman Empire,
Okay.
but specifically the Roman economy.
Right.
We've got some really interesting podcast script excerpts from History Hustle.
Oh,
I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
I'm excited.
So we're going to talk about how Rome became such an economic powerhouse.
Yeah.
What were the secrets to their success?
Yeah.
And also, what were some of the factors that led to their eventual decline?
Well, that's interesting.
And we'll explore how these ancient economic strategies can actually be applied to our modern world.
Oh, wow.
So whether you're, leading a team or you're managing a budget or you're just curious about how the world works, this deep dive is going to have something for you.
I mean, when we think about Rome, right? We often think about legions and gladiators.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
But their economic prowess was really just as impressive
Absolutely.
and vital to their success.
Okay, so let's imagine for a second.
Okay.
You're a merchant in ancient Rome,
All right.
and you've got these trade routes,
Yeah.
and they stretch from Britain all the way to Egypt,
Wow.
even as far as India and China.
That's incredible.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
This wasn't just like a local market.
Right.
We're talking about like a global economy centuries before anybody even thought about globalization.
I know. And what made this possible was their infrastructure.
No, their infrastructure was incredible.
I mean, those Roman roads, we've all heard about them.
Yeah.
Right? They were the backbone of this trade network.
Yeah, they weren't just impressive feats of engineering.
Yeah, they were really critical
They were necessary
for everything.
to keep the economy going.
Moving goods and legions and information.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine trying to manage all of that
I can't even imagine.
across such a vast empire without efficient transportation.
Forget about it.
Rome would have just completely stalled.
Absolutely.
It's like their version of the internet in a way.
It is. Connecting all the different parts of the empire.
Exactly. But how did they manage to keep this massive economic machine running smoothly?
Well, a key factor was the denarius,
The denarius.
their standardized currency.
So that was their currency.
Yeah, can you imagine today if every city had its own currency?
Oh my gosh.
It would be chaos.
What a nightmare that would be.
It would be a nightmare.
Try and do business like that.
Yeah, it would be impossible.
Yeah.
So the denarius really simplified trade and tax collection.
Okay, so it made things a lot easier.
Much easier, and it really helped to unify the empire.
That's so interesting because,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like having these coins,
Wow.
often with the emperor's face on them.
Yeah,
It's a symbol.
it was a symbol of power.
Wow, okay, so the denarius was like a physical representation of Roman power.
Absolutely.
Okay, but speaking of the denarius, I've heard that there were some problems with quality control.
Ah, yes, the issue of currency devaluation.
So tell me about that.
Well, to fund all these wars and
Yeah,
all these big projects,
right?
Roman emperors would sometimes reduce the silver content
In the denarius.
in the denarius.
So they were basically cheating
Yeah.
a little bit.
They thought it was a quick fix,
Right.
but it led to inflation,
Oh, of course.
which is a problem we still see today.
Yeah, inflation's always an issue.
Always.
So what's the lesson here?
That you need a stable monetary system.
Yeah.
When your currency loses value,
Yeah.
people lose faith in it.
Right. Because if your money is worth less,
Yeah,
then you can't buy as much.
right.
And then the economy starts to get shaky.
Exactly. It could destabilize everything.
It makes you appreciate, even with all its issues, the relative stability of our own currency today.
That does.
But anyway, back to Roman ingenuity.
Okay.
They weren't just about conquering and getting rich. They also understood that you need to distribute wealth strategically.
Right.
Think about the public works projects, the Colosseum, those amazing spectacles, and the social programs like the Annona.
Ah, yes, the Annona. A grain dole for the citizens.
So like a food program.
Exactly. They were making sure people had food.
That's amazing, especially if there was a shortage.
Exactly.
It's like they were thinking ahead,
Right.
keeping people happy.
And keeping them from rioting.
Exactly. Smart move.
It was a strategic investment.
It's kind of like how governments today invest in infrastructure and social programs
That's right. To keep things running smoothly.
and to improve people's lives.
Oh, exactly.
So it seems like Rome was doing a lot of things right.
They were.
But even empires face challenges, right?
Of course.
They definitely had their fair share of economic hurdles, especially with inflation and resource scarcity.
Yes. Expansion brought them wealth, gold, silver, slaves,
But
but it made them dependent on constant conquest.
so they needed to keep expanding.
They had to keep the resources flowing.
It's almost like they were addicted to expansion.
Yeah, a little bit.
But what happens when the expansion slows down
That's when things get tough.
and resources start to dry up?
Exactly. That's when they ran into problems.
So it's like a classic case of living beyond your means.
You could say that.
And what do they do about it?
Well, we talked about it earlier.
Ordinarious.
Yeah, devaluing the currency.
Ah, the quick fix.
Right, but in the long run, it backfired.
Leading to even more problems.
Exactly.
So the takeaway here is that short-term solutions
Yes.
can have long-term consequences.
Absolutely.
And that sustainable economic policies are key
Very important.
to avoid over-reliance on limited resources.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so we've talked about trade.
Uh-huh.
We've talked about currency.
Yep.
And social programs.
Right.
But let's get down to brass tacks. How did they actually pay for all this?
Taxes.
Ah, yes, the dreaded T word.
Nobody likes them, but they were essential.
I know.
For everything. The legions, the projects, everything.
So taxes were the lifeblood of the empire.
Absolutely.
But finding that balance
Yeah.
between getting enough money
Yeah.
and keeping the people happy,
Oh, it's a delicate balance.
that must have been really tough.
It was a constant challenge.
Especially because nobody likes paying taxes.
No, nobody does.
And if you push people too far...
You get revolts.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Did Rome have any issues with, people trying to avoid paying their taxes?
Oh, absolutely. Especially the wealthy.
Of course.
They always find a way.
So it seems like tax evasion is an age-old problem.
It is. It undermines the system
Yeah.
and erodes trust.
So what can we learn from that?
That transparent and equitable tax systems are really important.
Yeah.
And that's still a challenge today.
So some things never change.
It seems that way.
But there's another interesting aspect to Roman economics I want to touch on.
What's that?
They used trade as diplomacy.
Yes, soft power.
They knew how to use it.
Instead of just military force.
Right. They built relationships
Yes.
through trade.
Extending their influence. Peaceful.
So it was a win-win.
Exactly. Economic partnerships and power projection.
It's amazing how much we can learn from a civilization that existed centuries ago.
It is remarkable.
And we're just scratching the surface here.
Right.
There's so much more to uncover about Roman economics.
So much.
And how it shaped their world and how it can still inform our world today.
Exactly.
So stay with us.
We'll be right back.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back to delve even deeper into the Roman economic world.
I can't wait. Welcome back.
All right, so we're back.
As we delve deeper into the Roman economy,
Yeah.
it's really clear that they understood
Mm-hmm.
the importance of a stable economy.
Absolutely.
Not just for financial success,
Right.
but for social stability.
Okay.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
A vast empire like that,
Mhm.
with so many different people,
Yeah.
they had to keep things running smoothly.
That makes sense. I mean, yeah. You can't have a powerful empire if everyone's worried about putting food on the table.
Exactly.
Right.
You need
Yeah.
a stable foundation.
Okay, so how did they do that?
Well, for one thing,
Yeah.
they invested in massive public works projects.
Like the roads and aqueducts.
Exactly. And those projects,
Yeah.
they created jobs
Oh, okay.
and a sense of shared purpose.
Right. And let's not forget those amazing spectacles.
Oh, the Colosseum.
Yeah, the gladiators.
That was more than just entertainment.
Oh, really?
It was a way to bring people together,
Okay.
give them a sense of belonging.
Like a giant team-building exercise.
Exactly.
Wow, they were really smart.
It was all very strategic.
So it wasn't just about economics.
No.
It was about social cohesion.
Right. A happy and unified population is a stable population.
Fascinating. So they were really good at long-term planning.
They were, but they also faced challenges.
Like what?
Well, like we talked about before, tax reform.
Oh, right. Taxes. Nobody likes those.
No, but they were essential for funding the empire.
Okay, but you said it was a challenge.
It was finding that balance
Between what?
between getting enough revenue
Right.
and not angering the people.
I bet.
It was a constant struggle.
Did they have like ancient tax accountants or something?
Well, maybe not exactly like that.
But they had to figure it all out.
They did, and they had to deal with tax evasion too.
Oh, yeah. I bet the wealthy try to get out of paying.
Of course, they always do.
So it seems like some things never change.
Sadly, no.
But it shows that fair and transparent taxation is so important.
It's crucial for a stable society.
Okay, so we've talked about Rome's successes.
Yes.
Their infrastructure, their
Mhm.
currency, their social programs.
Right.
But we all know that Rome eventually declined and fell.
Sadly, yes.
What can we learn from their economic mistakes?
Well, their decline was a complex process,
Yeah.
but there are some valuable lessons to be learned.
Okay, so what went wrong? Was it all the lavish spending?
That was part of it. But there were deeper issues,
Like what?
like inflation.
Right, we talked about that.
It wasn't just a one-time thing.
Really?
As the empire grew, the military got more expensive.
So they needed more money.
Exactly.
And so they kept devaluing the currency.
Which led to more inflation.
So it was like a vicious cycle.
Exactly. They were trapped
And it was all because they were overspending.
and relying too much on conquest.
So when the expansion slowed down,
The problems got worse.
they were in trouble.
They were. Their economy was built on shaky ground.
It's like building a house on sand.
Exactly. When the storms came.
The foundation crumbled.
Precisely.
And then there's the issue of inequality.
Ah, yes.
The rich were getting richer.
And the poor were getting poorer.
And that always leads to problems.
It breeds resentment and instability.
So it wasn't just one thing.
No.
It was a combination of factors.
A perfect storm.
Overs, pending,
Inflation.
resource depletion.
Inequality.
What a mess.
It was a recipe for disaster.
And here's the crazy thing.
What's that?
We're still dealing with these same issues today.
I know. It's unbelievable.
So even with all our advancements,
All of our technology.
we haven't really solved these fundamental problems.
The dangers of debt, inequality, the erosion of trust.
It's like history is repeating itself.
It often does.
So what can we do about it?
Well, we can learn from Rome's mistakes.
Okay.
We can see what happened to them
Yeah.
and try to avoid making the same mistakes.
So their decline is like a cautionary tale.
It is a warning from history.
What are some of the key takeaways?
Well, first of all,
Yeah.
we need to be mindful of fiscal responsibility.
So don't overspend.
Exactly. Live within your means.
Okay, that makes sense.
And secondly,
yeah.
we need to address inequality.
Make sure everyone has a fair shot.
Exactly. A system that only benefits the wealthy
Yeah.
is doomed to fail.
So investing in education and healthcare,
Those are crucial.
they're not just expenses.
They're investments in the future.
And finally, public trust.
Oh.
That's so important.
It's the foundation of a strong society.
When people lose faith in their leaders,
Everything starts to fall apart.
so we need transparency, accountability.
Ethical leadership,
Those are essential.
if we want to avoid the fate of Rome.
This has been an incredible discussion,
It has.
but we're not quite finished yet.
Oh.
There's one more crucial aspect of Roman economics
Okay.
that we need to explore:
I'm all ears.
the lessons we can learn from their ultimate decline.
That's a great point.
Understanding why Rome fell
Yeah,
can help us build a better future.
I agree.
So stay tuned,
We'll
folks,
be right back.
for the final part of our Roman economic adventure. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our Roman economic deep dive.
Yeah, the grand finale.
We've talked about a lot of things,
We have trade, currency, those amazing social programs.
but now it's time to talk about what brought it all down.
Right, the decline and fall.
What can we learn from Rome's economic collapse?
It's like a financial autopsy.
Trying to figure out what went wrong.
So we don't make the same mistakes.
So we know about the overspending
On the military,
and the reliance on conquest,
for resources.
but were there internal problems too?
Oh, absolutely.
Like cracks in the foundation.
You could say that.
That made them vulnerable,
Yeah, remember we talked about tax reform?
right? Or the lack of it.
Exactly, that was a big factor.
How so?
Well, the wealthy elite,
Mm,
they resisted any attempts.
to make things more fair.
They wanted to protect their wealth,
So they shifted the burden onto the poor,
basically.
and that created resentment.
And instability.
So it wasn't just about money.
No, it was about social justice, too.
A system that's unfair.
Can't last forever.
It creates division.
And weakness.
And then there's inflation,
Ah, yes.
the debasement of the currency.
To pay for wars and lavish spending.
It all led to economic chaos.
People couldn't afford basic necessities.
It must have been a really tough time.
It was a recipe for disaster.
Overspending, unfair taxes, inflation, and a struggling populace.
It all added up.
And eventually the empire crumbled.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
What's that?
How these same problems
Yeah.
are still relevant today.
You're right. It's crazy to think about.
Unsustainable debt, inequality, the erosion of trust.
It's like we haven't learned anything.
We can learn from history.
By studying Rome's decline,
We can see the warning signs.
and hopefully avoid making the same mistakes.
That's the goal.
So as we wrap up our deep dive,
Yeah.
what are the key takeaways
What can we learn from Rome?
to help us navigate our own economic world?
Well, the first lesson is fiscal responsibility.
Living within our means.
Not spending more than we have.
That's good advice for everyone.
Individuals, businesses, governments.
Yeah, we all need to be mindful of our spending.
Especially in times of economic uncertainty.
The Roman experience shows us
that short-term gains from overspending
can lead to long-term pain.
It's like using a credit card.
To buy things you can't afford.
Eventually, the bill comes due.
And it can be really painful.
So be responsible with your finances.
The second lesson is equity and fairness.
Making sure everyone has a fair chance.
A system that only benefits the wealthy
is unsustainable and unjust.
We need to invest in education, healthcare, and social safety nets.
To create a more equitable society.
Where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
It's not just the right thing to do.
It's also the smart thing to do.
A more equitable society is a more prosperous society.
And finally, the importance of public trust.
When people lose faith in their leaders
and in the system,
it can lead to instability and chaos.
We need transparency, accountability, and ethical leadership.
To build and maintain trust.
It's essential for a healthy society.
Rome's story is a reminder
that these principles are timeless.
They matter just as much today
as they did centuries ago.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been an incredible exploration of Roman economics.
We hope you've learned something.
And maybe even found some inspiration.
To apply these lessons to your own lives.
And to the world around us.
Rome may have fallen.
But their legacy lives on.
In the ruins they left behind.
And in the lessons they teach us.
About economics, power, and human values.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.